Welcome back to my channel Knowledge Chronicle.
Have you ever wondered what happens to a fallen leaf in the forest? Or how energy moves from a tiny plant to a lion? Well, today, we're diving deep into decomposition and ecological pyramids, the hidden systems that keep nature running. And yes, we'll explain it all with real-life examples that you'll never forget. So let's begin. Nature doesn't waste anything. When a leaf falls or an animal dies, its remains don't just sit around forever. They become part of a powerful biological process called decomposition. But what exactly is decomposition? It's the breakdown of complex organic matter, like dead plants, animals, and fecal matter, into simpler inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients. These simpler forms return to the soil, air, or water, keeping ecosystems healthy. So, this dead organic material is called detritus. It's basically the raw material of decomposition. Alright, let's break down decomposition into 5 major steps, each one super important. First up, fragmentation. For example, think of an earthworm, often called the farmer's best friend. It munches on dead leaves, breaking them into smaller pieces. That's fragmentation, the physical breakdown of detritus into smaller bits. Now let's talk about leaching. Water moves through the soil, washing out soluble nutrients from the detritus. These nutrients then go deeper into the soil, and sometimes they become unavailable as they form salts. Next up is catabolism. So, microbes like bacteria and fungi release enzymes that further break down the fragments into simpler inorganic substances. This process of chemical degradation is what we call catabolism. And finally, humification. During decomposition, a dark, jelly-like substance called humus is formed. It's actually resistant to microbial breakdown, decomposes very slowly, and serves as a nutrient reservoir in the soil. So, mineralization is the next step. Finally, the humus is acted upon by microbes, releasing inorganic nutrients back into the soil. This process is called mineralization. And you know, it really completes the decomposition cycle. Now let's talk about what affects decomposition. Oxygen is super important here. Decomposition needs oxygen, which is why it's much slower in waterlogged or airless soils. Temperature and moisture play a big role too. Warm and moist conditions actually speed up microbial activity, while cold or dry conditions slow it down quite a bit. So, detritus is made up of all sorts of materials. But here's the interesting part. Materials that are rich in sugars and nitrogen actually decompose way faster than those that are packed with tough substances like lignin or chitin. Here's a fun example. If you look at tropical forests, leaves there can decompose in just a few weeks. But, you know, in the Arctic tundra, those same leaves can actually stay intact for years. Now let's move to the second part. Ecological pyramids. Imagine a pyramid, wide at the base and narrow at the top. That's exactly how food, energy, and biomass are distributed across trophic levels in an ecosystem. So, what are trophic levels? Each step in a food chain is a trophic level. Producers are plants and algae. Primary consumers are herbivores like deer and grasshoppers. Secondary consumers are carnivores, such as frogs. And tertiary consumers are the top predators, like hawks or lions. And, you know, there are 3 types of ecological pyramids. So, the pyramid of number, basically shows the number of organisms at each trophic level. It's a way to represent how many living beings are present at each step of the food chain. For example, in a grassland, there is a large amount of grass, right? Then, hundreds of grasshoppers feed on that grass. After that, dozens of frogs eat those grasshoppers. And finally, a few snakes eat the frogs. This forms the classic shape of the pyramid of number. But what if we consider a tree as the producer? In this case, there is just one big tree. Many insects live on it, then some small birds eat those insects, and finally, one eagle eats the small birds. So, here, the pyramid actually becomes inverted. So, the pyramid of biomass, basically shows the total weight or mass of organisms at each trophic level. In forests, the biomass pyramid is usually upright. Trees have more mass than deer, which have more mass than tigers. But in aquatic ecosystems, it can actually be inverted. Why does that happen? Well, it's because phytoplankton reproduce really fast and support a large biomass of fish, even though they themselves weigh very little at any given moment. It might look like a paradox, but honestly, it's all about energy flow over time. So the third one is the pyramid of energy. This is actually the most important pyramid, and it's always upright. Why is that, you might wonder? Well, it's because energy is lost at every step, mostly as heat during metabolic activities. Only about 10% of energy gets transferred from one level to the next, and yeah, that's why it works this way. So, plants, they capture sunlight and turn it into energy. But here's the thing, herbivores that eat those plants actually get only about 10% of that energy. And then, moving on, we have the next step, energy transfer to carnivores. So where do humans fall in this pyramid? Well, we're omnivores, which basically means we can be at multiple trophic levels at the same time. Eating vegetables? You're a primary consumer. Eating chicken? You're a secondary consumer. These two concepts, decomposition and ecological pyramids, show us the invisible engines that power every forest, ocean, and farm. Decomposition ensures that nutrients are recycled, and pyramids explain how energy flows and fades through food chains. Understanding these helps us appreciate just how fragile and interdependent life truly is. If this helped you understand the topic, then your one like, share, and subscribe will help us create more valuable content. Join the journey of learning, only on Knowledge Chronicle. See you in the next one.